Student Doctor Mom here. I know it's been a long time since I last posted a video, but I just wanted to let you guys know I survived first year and I'm back and it's summer at the moment, so I thought I'd post a little video update with some tips from a mom on how to survive your first year of medical school, or any graduate school for that matter. So tip number 1, for me, going to medical school, the biggest transition probably for any medical student ever is learning how to study. You can't study the same way that you studied when you were in undergrad. You just don't have enough time to make flashcards individually or to draw things out a million times. You just don't have that much time, and you have a lot more material that you need to know, and you need to know it now. So I was like trying out everything, seeing what other people are doing, try it for a class. What works for one class might not work for another class. So you have to keep changing it, keep trying different styles and find what works for you. I found that maybe what worked for me for one exam in the same class didn't work for me for the second exam. So I kind of changed throughout the course and throughout each individual class. Everything was different. I also found that relying on your classmates and your friends, sometimes you guys can divvy things up and help each other out by making study materials that everyone can use. And I highly recommend doing that and utilizing anything that anybody is willing to share, because it means it's less work for you to have to do, and you can spend real time studying it and getting to know it. I'm a big fan of the OnKey Decks on your phones. We had classmates who would make decks for a class or for an exam, and then they would post their deck. And so I would utilize that for my exams. And that leads me into my study tip number 2, which is to study anywhere you can, anytime you can. As a parent, you find yourself doing a million things that don't involve studying and also don't involve family time, unfortunately. So with all the extra responsibilities that you have, if there's a good way to figure out how to study while doing it, I definitely recommend doing this when you can. It may not be the most effective way to study, so it is much more of a passive way of studying, but like I said before, using the OnKey Deck flashcards, I use that in the subway systems when I'm going to drop my daughter off at school and come back to go to my school. I also use that program and I bring my Surface Pro with me everywhere I go pretty much, so that if there's any downtime, whether I'm waiting to pick up my daughter from school, I'm sitting in a car, if I'm at gymnastics practice, I can be on either my Surface Pro, watching lectures that I've downloaded already, or reviewing PowerPoints, or doing my clicker quiz questions, or studying the OnKey Decks. These are things that I recommend doing. The Surface Pro is pretty light. I can fit it in one of my purses. It's a big purse, but I can fit it in there. Otherwise, if you just have your phone, I recommend trying to use the OnKey Decks. There are some pre-made decks online. You can probably find them on Reddit. I utilize those as well, but I prefer to use my classmates' made decks that are more tailored towards my specific class and my specific exam that I'm working on. Although I recommend that you don't try to cram these in, because that's hard to do, and it might not stick long term. But it's a great program to use. Definitely enjoy OnKey Deck. So then tip number 3 is to schedule everything. To schedule play dates with your kids, to schedule a date with your significant other. So for us, I just have the one child, my daughter Alessandra, and my significant other here in New York. And so my test days were mainly on Mondays, and then some of them were also on Fridays. So basically after an exam, that was my play date with my daughter. I would get her from school early, wouldn't pick her up at 5 o'clock. It would be right when her school ends. I'd be there to pick her up at 2:30, and we would go home and we would do whatever she wanted to do, play Barbies, cook, pretend we're doing a baking show. That's one of her favorites. And sometimes I even incorporated a little bit of household duties to make it fun, where she plays the mom and I play the kid, and we're doing chores, maybe sweeping, maybe doing laundry. Try to make it fun and try to make it quality time. So I try not to have my study materials anywhere near me. And usually after an exam, you're so exhausted, you're so drained, the last thing you want to do is look at flashcards again. So I take that time to really focus on my kid, to let her know that I care about her and I appreciate that she's willing to sacrifice so much for me. And then usually later that night, I can enjoy a movie with my significant other on the couch, or we just hang out and do nothing. And that's something that I really tried to make sure that we schedule. And I try to schedule it particularly for after an exam. There are times where it gets crazy and there might be 3 exams in 1 week. On those weeks, I might not be able to do that, but I try to make it up to them by planning something else in advance and say, okay, well, this next weekend, Sunday is our day. Let's go do whatever we want. I think it's really important to keep that stuff in mind so that your significant other or your child doesn't feel like they aren't important to you. You really do need to schedule time with them, and then to make that time count. And obviously, I'm not perfect. I'm still working on it, but that seems to be working for my family at this time. Tip number 4. So tip number 4 is kind of more along the lines of keeping your house together. I like to pick a day to kind of do laundry. Typically, Friday nights end up being my laundry night because I've got Saturday and Sunday is usually the night before a test, so I don't do as much on Sunday for the house. But like Friday or after an exam with my daughter, we do some of the chores together. A lot of my classmates who are also parents and those who aren't parents use a lot of the services like laundrying services. They will have their laundry sent out. I don't do that. We have laundry downstairs in our building, and it's a lot cheaper than any other place. So we do have to do the laundry ourselves. And so I usually make Friday nights a laundry night. It's not usually that busy Friday night. Otherwise, I do it throughout the weekend. And then as far as food goes, we try to meal prep as best we can. It's pretty hard to meal prep and have it last throughout the entire week. I haven't gotten this down yet. I'm working on it. I've taken a lot of tips from my friends. They love crockpot recipes or things that you can kind of prepare in advance and then put in the fridge to actually cook later. So I'm going to be working on doing a lot more of that this semester so that we don't rely as much on more of the quicker meals like chicken nuggets and pizza. Although around exam times, I definitely spend a lot more time doing that sort of thing, which basically leads me into tip number 5, meal prep. And I kind of did it in the wrong order, so I apologize about that. But yeah, the 5th tip was going to be to meal prep as best you can, to try to get your groceries ordered and everything. For us, we use the grocery ordering service because we don't, it's a lot of money and time to spend trying to find parking, paying for parking, and to go into, Costco or a Target or wherever it is, whatever we need. It ends up being almost more expensive than if we were to pay a delivery fee or a tip. So we use a delivery service, Instacart, to get most of our groceries. Otherwise, it's just cheaper to do the service and to not have to worry about it. So I definitely recommend that. And a lot of other friends for meal preps to maintain, trying to stay as healthy as we can in the chaos, has been to use those meal packets and meal kits. We've tried BlueApron. We've tried a couple other ones. I can't remember the names on BlueApron. I'm still doing right now. And I love them. It feels nice, especially if you can get your family involved in prepping the meal. I think it's a great way to go. So there you have it. That's my 5 tips for surviving your first year of med school as a parent or somebody who has more responsibilities, even taking care of other family members. That's that. Let me know if there's anything you guys would like me to talk about. I will be discussing some of my favorite study apps and techniques that I've used over the past year in a video coming soon.
Like and subscribe for more videos down below.